Hello and welcome to the third draft video with me, Pion, for the Draft Champion series on Battlebranded. Here we have an interesting first pack with, I'd say, 4 cards that I'd be interested to have in my deck. Those being the Weirwood Patriarch, Contagion Lord, Stinging Invocation, and Leyline Sentry. Leyline Sentry is, I think, the most versatile of the Leyline cards, along with Leyline Golem for draft. And I even think that Leyline Sentry is going to proc more often, seeing how popular Utera and Necreum is. And, well, it's a really strong card that I would like to have in any deck, just for the value you can get out of it. However, it relies on an opposing strategy, and I'd like to have some of my strongest cards be proactive towards my own. Stinging Invocation here is a very powerful effect, potentially. It's also potentially really bad, and I wouldn't like my first pick to be such a how to say, it's a volatile card. It can either do very good or very bad for you. So I'm gonna shy away from that in favor of Weirwood Patriarch, which I think is the best card in the pack. Contagion Lord, while adding 1 card with the Soulbind, if you get to activate it, which I think you do in slightly less than 2/3 of your games, then you'll have well, basically negated and even made your leveling. You've gained a leveling advantage instead of not having one. But it relies on abominations to be good, and I'd rather play Weirwood Patriarch, which is a good card in itself. It doesn't even need specific, or at least you shouldn't try to build your deck around only the Weirwood Patriarch. It is going to be good in situations anyway. So Patriarch is going to be my first pick, and among these cards, Dirge Banshee is the strongest, and I'd say Necreum Utera is much stronger than Utera Tempest, so we're going to go with this. Here I am not fond of any of these cards. Dr. Frankenbaum could be good if we tried to move into an Abominations package. Shardplate Delver is, well, basically a weak Spring Dryad, and while Spring Dryad is good, Shardplate Delver is a little bit more, well, it's consistent, but it's consistently worse, and it's not a good blocker at all, since it is actually a weaker blocker than the level 2 of Spring Dryad, and it grows slightly less fast since you have multiple effects in Utera, hopefully, that grabs multiple bodies. So I could definitely see just picking up the Spirit Cleave here as a way to deal with big threats, and I think that's what I'm gonna do here. Generally, I don't really like having too many removal spells, and I don't intend to level this very often, but it's good to have an option for when things may go awry. Ursine Strength is an amazing trick, really good in alloying Utera with the armor guys, but much more solid than these cards. So we've started out really heavy on spells. Howl of Sith is a great finisher, and Dreadbolt is, I think it's worse than Spirit Cleave, and while being a higher rarity. So this was actually a constructed staple back in the day, but no longer. This was the best way of dealing with Grimgaunt Predators that were running rampant during the early days of Solforge. So here we have a pretty nice pack. I'm going to snatch up this Calamity Fiend because a trade reversing effect that is attached to a body is just too strong to pass up on. You should have many of these cards in your drafts. Okay, so here we have an option between Dendrify or Grove Huntress. I haven't played Dendrify too much in draft yet. It is one of the best cards in Constructed, if not the best card right now. And yeah, it should do a lot of good work in draft 2. although the creatures aren't quite as scary in draft by themselves. And Grove Huntress is such a good trick, so I think I'm just gonna go for the proactive trick. Dizzy and Siphon, we're getting rewarded here. Oh, sorry about that. Voice, it's a little bit rough. Dizzy and Siphon is insane. It is on a power level high above most other things in this format. So we're starting up with a really good deck. Crypt Slime I could see being better than... I like Crypt Slime better than Delver. It makes a better underdrop, and Delver is not a good threat. Or it feels just the threat role, and I think we have better threats than that to level. So I'm going to go with a more versatile card. How deep are we going to go on Pump? I could see Deathseeker being slightly useful for something. I could also see Spirit Leash being useful. Generally, I think I like Spirit Leash more than Deathseeker, so I'm just going to pick this on merit of being a more powerful effect. I'll be looking to not grab spells, or too many of the spells here. Portal Shade is a big card, big creature, and a great underdrop. Great, solid card all around. Big stats and a relevant ability throughout all the game, basically. Well, Berserk Drake is strong, but I'd rather have a Glutton in... I think I'd rather have a Glutton. So, it has pretty decent stats. However, we're not looking to level it, so we just want to have the big underdrop. Question is, though, whether our cards are so strong that we would rather have a Deep Branch Prowler on merit of it having better size, as well as being a Utera card for Dizzy and Siphon. That is something I am looking into, because Dizzy and Siphon is such a powerful effect. So if there is a tight choice between two cards, I think Glutton is enough better than Prowler, so the choice... Well, my Utera preference for Siphon isn't going to be that big, isn't going to sway my pick from the Glutton to the Prowler, but it's definitely something to think about. Here, it's an easy Grove Huntress. It is a trick that does something that affects another lane, and these tricks are so good in Solforge. These cards are all cards that don't really do much, so I like Grove Huntress as a card that does something. Okay, this hand is quite bad. We don't need the reach because we have a Howl of Sith. I rather not play the Misery Demon. The Rot Wanderer could have some merit, but I doubt it. But it's going to be the card with the most merit out of the cards that we've seen. Gloom Reaper Witch is a card that I haven't enjoyed too much. Won't be leveling it because it's not a strong leveled card, and it's really not a strong under-leveled card. So I'd rather just take a Deathseeker for Spirit Cleave shenanigans and double blocking duty. Here we have a Spring Dryad or a Fell Strider. These other cards I am not interested in them. Despite the fact that we have some pump spells for the Dark Heart Wanderer, but having a card that relies on you playing spells is not very good. I do like Fell Strider a lot, but Spring Dryad is so powerful, especially since we have a few of these... we have some effects that procs multiple creatures, but also we want to pick our 5th Utera card. I'd like to pick mostly Utera cards from here on out. There's another Siphon. Wow. We shouldn't be getting Siphon's second pick. They should all be gone after the first pack. And now let's just pick Utera cards here. We have a very solid core of our deck. So I think what we want to do is just to pick the big bodies to ensure our survival. And yeah, I'm going to pick a Cavern Hydra because it's a Utera card here. So that's going to be the name of the game for the rest of this draft, I think. Dizzy and Siphon is a card that is so powerful that... is it that powerful that we are not picking the Branch Weaver Druid, which is... Well, Branchweaver Druid is kind of a trick, since you can block something with a 1/1 and maybe trade off that way if you barely lost a trade. Calamity Fiend is so good. I think I gotta pick the Calamity Fiend here. Yeah. The Branchweaver Druid is really good with the Spirit Cleave and the Spring Dryad. It's not bad with the Portal Shade, because if you get the 1/1, you get the 5/5 too. So, still, Calamity Fiend I think is just a much better card. And once again, we have a mostly Necrim pack here. Strength in numbers could do something, but that is just a much worse card than the Hungering Strike. Hungering Strike is a bad siphon, and Strength in numbers increases the chance of our siphons to do siphon things. And then again, if our siphons don't work on level and just under level, that is going to be, I think, fine too, because they're good at every level. I'm going to pick the Hungering Strike here. I could pick the Torrent Witch too, but what are we actually giving extra regenerate? Spring Dryad would be good. Portal Shade would be nice. Other than that, I don't see too many cards that we want to do this with. Yeah, so Hungering Strike or Torrent Witch. How many spells do we end up with? I don't think too many. So let's pick the Hungering Strike, and now we're looking for Utera cards. Another Spring Dryad or a Roaming Warclaw. This is interesting, because I think our deck is so solid. I think we'd maybe rather have this effect than this effect, because Spring Dryad is so good when you're ahead. But it requires you to play creatures that do the other things, and Roaming Warclaw works with the Spring Dryad that we already got. Unfortunately, that one is really bad with the Portal Shade, so maybe that's some reason to pick Spring Dryad over it. Both these cards are great. I mean, I'd pick this entire pack in a heartbeat, I think, if I could. I think what we're going to do here is we're going to go with the Spring Dryad. Can't really decide. It's a tough one, this one. I'm going to go for the greater underdrop, being Warclaw. And these cards are both very good. I do like the Venom Fang because it's a little bit more, well, if you level it, it's going to reward you slightly, and it's about as good a blocker as Swamp Moss Ancient. So we're going to pick the Venom Fang, just to have the solid cards all around. Call the Weak over Gloomspire Worm, because Gloomspire Worm is only good when you're ahead, and Call the Weak could potentially have some use in clearing a blocker late. Okay, so here we have Sarath and Bitter Frost Totem as the best cards in the pack. It still means that we are not picking Utera cards. Yeah. They are enough stronger than the rest of these cards to be played here. So I'm just going to pick this Wrath, and hopefully we'll get good Utera cards, I'm saying, as we're picking up another Glutton as the only good card in this pack. I wouldn't go too deep on Necroflazen hoping to get them. Okay, so here we have the Utera cards. We don't have plants, so this is just a 7/7 overload. Rather have a Mauler. I'll pick the Chisel Hearth here, because of it being Utera and it's being a kind of good blocker. And as our final pick, are we going with the Shardclaw Crusher or the Strength in Numbers? I feel like the Strength in Numbers kind of trick is better, but let's look at the spell count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is kind of a lot of spells. So let's go with... we already have Ursine Strength and Double Siphon for tricks, so we don't really need tricks like that. And, well, we're trying to switch things up here by making the draft one by one and then the games one by one. And if you like it that, make sure you tell me, or if you like to have it all in one video, you can tell me that as well. And I will take that into account on how I'm making these videos in the future. Okay, see you for round 1.